Welcome to the deep dive. You know, if you've ever wanted that kind of shortcut to understanding the entire structural foundation of language, like from the tiniest sound right up to the big cultural ideas, well, you're definitely in the right place.
Hmm.
Today, we're taking an anthropological deep dive into linguistics. We're going level by level, really dissecting the architecture that makes all human communication, well, possible.
That's absolutely the core idea from the sources. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter if a language uses clicks or tones or has a huge vocabulary or a small one. All human languages, deep down, they share these fundamental structural systems.
Okay.
And linguistics, by studying these structures systematically, it gives us this direct window, really, into how language, thought, and culture all connect.
Okay, yeah. Let's unpack this then. We're going to use a classic technique to sort of reveal these hidden rules. We're going to intentionally break them.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Our base sentence is super simple. Johnny is a boy who loves pizza. And we're just going to introduce specific errors, kind of moving up the chain from sound to context,
Yeah.
just to show these 4 levels of analysis.
Right. So we'll start with phonology, that's the sound structure,
Right.
maybe by saying something like P-boy.
Uh-huh.
Then we hit morphology and syntax, that's the grammar, by saying maybe an unboy.
Okay.
After that, semantics, the literal meaning, with something weird like drinks pizza.
Right. Doesn't work. And finally, pragmatics, meaning in context, where the whole situation shifts if we say, Johnny is a girl who loves pizza.
Ah,
That journey from making sounds to making social sense, that's where we're starting.
exactly.
So let's start right at the bottom. Phonology, the level of sound. If you hear Johnny is a P-boy, you instantly know that's wrong.
Yeah.
The sounds, P and B, they're English sounds, sure. But that combination, PB, not at the start of a word.
That's precisely it. Phonology isn't really about which sounds exist in a language, but the rules, the principles governing how they combine. The patterns, exactly. And to study these sounds consistently across languages, linguists use the International Phonetic Alphabet, the IPA. We have to, because English spelling, well, it's famously unreliable, isn't it?
Oh, yeah?
Think about the F sound. Same sound, totally different spelling in fish, philosophy, or enough. The IPA gives us one symbol for that sound.
Okay. And phonetics itself, the physical study of the sounds, that's fascinating too, like how we define consonants by where we block the air, right?
Yeah.
Like with our lips or teeth.
Yeah, where and how the airstream is modified. And you can feel one of the most critical differences, voicing right now, actually, if you just place your fingers gently on your larynx, on your voice box.
Okay.
Now, make the S sound, like in the word sip, sus. Feel that. Your vocal cords are probably pretty taut, not really buzzing. That's voiceless.
Right, no buzz.
Now switch to the Z sound, like in zip. Feel that vibration.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Big difference.
That means the sound is voiced, your vocal cords are vibrating. That voicing distinction is fundamental in phonetics.
Okay, so that's consonants. But sounds aren't just consonants. What about vowels? How do they work?
Vowels are different. They're defined mainly by the position of your tongue inside your mouth. Specifically, we talk about how high or low the tongue is, high, mid, or low.
Huh?
And also whether it's pushed towards the front or pulled towards the back of your mouth, front, central, or back.
Okay.
So, like, think about the vowel sound in the word beat. Eat. To make that sound, you move the front part of your tongue up high. So we call that a high front vowel.
Gotcha. Okay, so we know how sounds are physically made, physically described.
Sure.
But you mentioned this earlier, and this is where it gets really interesting for understanding language structure. The difference between a phone and an allophone.
Yes, this is crucial. A phoneme, like the sound P, is the smallest unit of sound that can actually change the meaning of a word.
Like pin versus win versus bin. Changing that first sound changes the whole word.
Exactly. Each of those starting sounds, P, W, B, are distinct phones in English because swapping them creates different words.
Okay, so what's an allophone then?
An allophone is just a variant pronunciation of a single phoneme. These variations exist, we produce them differently sometimes, but critically, they don't change the word's meaning for a native speaker.
Example.
Okay, let's stick with the P phoneme. Say the word pill. Notice that little puff of air that comes out with the P. PP, that's called aspiration.
Yeah, feel it. Pill.
P, P.
Right. Now say the word spill.
Spill, P.
Hear that? The puff of air is gone or much reduced. It's an unaspirated P. The preceding S sound blocks the aspiration.
Whoa, okay, yeah, you're right. But I mean, as an English speaker, I never consciously noticed that difference before. It just sounds like key to me in both words.
Precisely. That's the point. Both that aspirated P in pill and the unaspirated P in spill are heard by native English speakers as just instances of the same sound category, the phone he P.
Hmm.
Our brain automatically filters out that physical difference because it's predictable based on the surrounding sounds and it doesn't signal a change in meaning.
Hmm.
This ties into Kenneth Pike's really useful distinction between etic and emic.
Right. Explain that. The analytic perspective is like the outsider's view hearing all the physical sound variations. Like a phonetician or maybe someone learning the language, they might notice the aspiration difference quite clearly.
Okay.
But the emic perspective is the insider's view, the native speakers, where
Yeah.
you only perceive the differences that are distinctive, the ones that actually signal a difference in meaning within your language system. So you hear PE and P as just P.
That makes so much sense. The brain simplifies.
It has to. Otherwise, language processing would be overwhelming.
Okay, so beyond these individual sounds and their variations, there are bigger sound patterns too, right? Like tone and intonation. We use intonation in English all the time.
We do. Think about how your pitch falls at the end of a statement like, he's going home. But it rises for a yes-no question, is he going home? That pitch contour, that melody is intonation.
Right.
But in a tonal language, like North Mandarin Chinese, pitch changes aren't just melody, they're actually phonemic. They change the core meaning of the word itself. Yeah, the sources give the classic example of the syllable ma. Said with a high level tone, it means mother. With a high rising tone, it means hemp. With a low falling rising tone, it's horse. And with a falling tone, it means scold.
4 completely different words from the same syllable, just by
Yeah.
changing the pitch.
Exactly. The tone is as crucial as the consonant or the vowel.
And phonology even connects to social stuff, doesn't it?
Mm.
The sources mentioned this interesting thing about Toronto teenagers in the 60s.
Oh, yeah, the sociolectal
Yeah.
variation. They apparently started adopting slight British-sounding accents.
Mhm.
Not because they were moving to the UK or anything,
Right.
but likely because of the huge cultural impact and sort of emotional power of British rock groups back then, like the Beatles. It shows how we can subconsciously use sound patterns, phonology, to signal identity, lifestyle, group affiliation.
That's fascinating. Using accent to belong. Okay, let's shift gears. We've covered sound rules. Now, what about building rules? If phonology is the sound, grammar is the architecture. Let's look back at our error example. Johnny is in boy. We know and is a word in English, but it's wrong here. Why? It's about the rules of how words fit together.
Exactly. That takes us squarely into morphology and syntax. Morphology first, that's the study of word formation, how words are built up from smaller, meaningful pieces.
Piece is called
Morphemes, correct. Morphemes are the smallest units that carry meaning. Take the word cats. It has 2 morphemes. The root cat, which has the lexical meaning feline animal, and the suffix s, which is a grammatical morpheme indicating plural.
Okay. And different languages handle these morphemes differently, right? There was talk of analytic versus synthetic languages.
Yes. It's a spectrum, but generally analytic languages, sometimes called isolating languages like Mandarin Chinese, tend to have words that consist of just one morpheme. Word order becomes very important for grammar.
Okay. One word, one chunk of meaning.
Pretty much. Whereas synthetic languages like Swahili or German or many Native American languages, they often combine multiple morphemes within a single word.
Like stringing beads together.
Kind of. And some morphemes are free. They can stand alone as a word, like cat or run. Others are bound. They have to be attached to another morpheme, like prefixes and suffixes.
Okay.
The Swahili example in the source was great. Nitasoma. That one word means I will read. Ni means I. That's bound. Ta means future tense, also bound. And soma means read, which can actually be a free morpheme on its own.
So bound morphemes latch on. And those are called affixes, right? Like prefixes and suffixes.
Yep, prefixes come before the root in complete, suffixes come after complete unsly. There are even infixes inserted inside a root and circumfixes that go around it, though they're rarer in English.
Right. Okay, so that's morphology, building words. Now, moving up, stringing those words together into sentences, that's syntax.
Syntax, exactly. The rules for organizing words and phrases. English, as we mentioned, relies heavily on word order.
John sees Caesar versus Caesar sees John. Totally different meanings just by swapping the nouns.
Absolutely. The order tells you who did what to whom. But look at a language like Latin. It relies much more on case endings.
Ah, those little suffixes on the nouns.
Yes, they mark the grammatical role of the noun, subject, object, etc. So in Latin, Johannes videt Caesarem means John sees Caesar, But you could say Caesarem videt Johannes, same meaning.
Really? Even though the order is flipped?
Yes, because the ei ending on Johannes marks him as the subject, and the em on Caesarem marks Caesar as the object, no matter where they appear in the sentence. The endings carry the grammatical information that word order carries in English.
That's amazing. It shows how languages solve the same problem, expressing relationships in totally different ways.
It does. And the power of syntax is really clear when you look at nonsense sentences. The Swords had one like, the pluming race sinkers kirked the rampix.
Right, means nothing.
Means absolutely nothing lexically, but you still feel like it's structured like an English sentence, don't you?
Yeah, totally. I know race sinkers is probably the noun doing the action. Kirked sounds like the past tense verb.
Exactly, because legitimate English-bound morphemes like jing or s-ed are used in syntactically correct positions. It shows we have this deep syntactic competence. We know the structural rules, even when the words themselves are meaningless.
Okay, this is really cool. But what's maybe even more fascinating is how grammar isn't just abstract rules. It seems to reflect culture, too.
Oh, absolutely. Grammar isn't neutral. Think about grammatical gender, for instance. English used to, and sometimes still does, default to masculine terms like chairman or using he as a generic pronoun.
Yeah, historically.
And that likely reflected a social structure where men were often seen as the default or held more public roles.
Okay.
But contrast that with the Iroquois example from the sources. Iroquois culture is traditionally matrilineal. Women historically controlled land, inheritance passed through the female line. And guess what?
What?
Their grammar tends to default to the feminine gender. Masculine entities or concepts often need a special prefix to mark them as masculine.
Wow, so the grammar actually encodes a different social default.
Precisely. It shows how grammar isn't just for communication. It actively ensconces, as the source puts it, how specific groups of people perceive the world and structure their social reality.
That's a really powerful idea. Grammar reflects worldview.
It absolutely can. Which leads us nicely into semantics, the study of meaning itself. Remember our error sentence, Johnny is a boy who drinks pizza.
Right. Grammatically perfect, phonologically fine, but weird.
Weird because it's semantically anomalous. We know pizzas are generally solid food, not typically something you drink. Semantics deals with this level of literal meaning.
Meaning seems so intuitive, yet it's tricky to pin down, isn't it?
It is. Linguists talk about the actual thing or concept a word refers to out in the world or in our minds.
So the referent cat is, well, a cat, a furry animal.
Right. That's a concrete reference, something you can perceive with your senses. But words like idea or justice have abstract reference concepts formed in the mind. And one of the amazing things about human language, linked to semantics, is displacement. The ability to talk about things that aren't right here, right now.
Like talking about yesterday or planning for tomorrow.
We're talking about unicorns or characters in a novel, things that aren't present or might not even exist outside language.
Yeah.
That's displacement.
And words often have multiple meanings too, right? That's polysemy.
Exactly. Take cat again.
Yeah.
The basic literal meaning, the feline mammal, that's the denotative meaning. I love Siamese cats.
Okay.
But if you say, he's a cool cat, you're using a connotative meaning, a culture-specific association, like stylish or relaxed.
Right.
And then there's figurative meaning, like in idioms, he let the cat out of the bag. That has nothing to do with actual felines.
Okay. Denotative, connotative, figurative, multiple layers. How do linguists even analyze meaning systematically?
It's tough because semantic systems are more open-ended than, say, phonology, but techniques include looking at lexical fields, groups of related words like chair, stool, sofa, bench, all types of seating. Or semi-analysis, breaking down word meanings into smaller semantic features like father could be plus animate, plus human, plus male, plus adult, plus parent. Mother would be the same, but male plus female.
I see. Comparing features.
Yeah, but again, it's complex and always changing. New meanings emerge, old ones fade.
Now, connecting semantics back to the bigger picture, how languages encode things differently. The watch clock example was interesting.
Right. English forces us to make a distinction based on portability.
Yeah.
A watch, portable versus a clock, not usually portable.
Yeah, you wouldn't wear a clock on your wrist.
But Italian, as the source notes, uses one main word, orologio, for both. The portability distinction isn't usually built into the basic word.
So how do they specify if they need to?
They can. They use inferential resources. They can add a phrase like orologio da polso, which literally means clock of wrist, if they need to clarify it's a wristwatch.
Um,
It shows, as the linguist Sapir pointed out, that languages might structure reality slightly differently in their vocabulary, but they usually have ways to express similar concepts if needed. They just might require more or fewer words.
and ultimately, context seems to rule everything when it comes to meaning.
Absolutely. Context is king. Think about that sentence. The pig is ready to eat. What does it mean? Well, it depends entirely on the context, doesn't it?
Yeah. If a farmer says it,
Ah,
the pig is hungry, needs feeding.
right. If a chef says it in a kitchen.
The pork is cooked and ready to be served to people.
Exactly. Or if someone says it about a greedy friend at a buffet.
They're being critical, calling the friend a pig, metaphorically, ready to gorge themselves.
Same sentence, three totally different meanings, dictated purely by the situation.
Which brings us perfectly to the final level, pragmatics, meaning and use, how the context shapes the actual message.
Precisely. It's not just what the words mean literally, semantics, but what the speaker intends to convey and what the listener understands in a specific situation.
So let's go back to Johnny loves pizza. You showed how the answer changes depending on the question.
Yes, the discourse situation. If I ask, what is it that Johnny loves? The single word pizza is the perfect, pragmatically correct answer. You don't need a full sentence.
Right.
But if I ask, is it true that Johnny loves pizza, just saying pizza would be weird. The expected appropriate answer is something like yes, or yes it is.
So the conversation itself sets up expectations for how we should respond.
Exactly. We operate under implicit assumptions, what the philosopher Grice called maxims of conversation, like the maxim of relevance.
Meaning we assume what people say is relevant.
Generally, yes. If I mention I've been drinking wine, and in the next breath say I won't drive home, you instantly assume those two statements are connected and relevant to each other. You infer the reason.
Okay, makes sense. And the maxim of quality.
That's basically assuming people are being truthful, or at least sincere. If I tell you I have 2 dogs, you'll normally assume I actually have 2 dogs, not secretly 6 or none. You assume I'm telling the truth as I know it.
We kind of rely on these assumptions for conversation to even work smoothly.
We absolutely do. And another key idea in pragmatics comes from the philosopher J.L. Austin, speech acts. The idea that when we speak, we're not just saying things, we're doing things with words.
Doing things, how so?
Well, Austin broke it down. The locutionary act is the literal act of uttering sounds and words with a certain meaning. Saying the sentence, "It's cold in here."
Okay, just saying the words.
The illocutionary act is what the speaker intends to achieve by saying it. By saying, "It's cold in here," my intention might be to indirectly request that you close the window. That's the illocutionary force.
Ah, the underlying intent.
And the perlocutionary act is the actual effect the utterance has on the listener. If you hear me say, "It's cold in here," with the intent of getting the window closed, and you actually get up and close the window, that effect is the perlocutionary act.
So saying something, intending something, and causing an effect. Locutionary, illocutionary, perlocutionary.
You got it. We perform actions like promising, requesting, warning, apologizing, all through language.
So putting this all together, using language isn't just knowing grammar and vocabulary. It's knowing how to use it appropriately in real situations.
Exactly. That's what Del Hymes called communicative competence. It's not just linguistic competence, knowing the rules of grammar, but also knowing the social and cultural rules of interaction.
Like knowing how to greet your boss versus how you greet your best friend.
Precisely. Or knowing when interrupting is okay and when it's rude. Or how direct or indirect you should be. That systematic knowledge of appropriate language use in context, that's communicative competence.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. It's been quite a journey through the levels of language.
It has. We started way down at the phoneme, that tiny sound unit that distinguishes meaning.
Right, like PVSB.
Then we built up through morphology, word building with morphemes, and syntax, sentence structure, the core of grammar.
The architecture.
Then we layered on semantics, looking at literal meaning, denotation, connotation, and how languages categorize the world.
Meaning itself.
And finally, we reached pragmatics, understanding how context, intention, and social rules shape the actual message conveyed through speech acts and communicative competence. Linguistic analysis gives us the tools, the framework.
And anthropology helps us see why it all matters, how it connects to culture, thought, and society.
Exactly.
So what's the big takeaway here for you, the listener? We've sort of shown, I think, That grammar isn't just some dry, neutral set of rules you learn in school.
Far from it.
It's actually a system that actively encodes and reflects how specific groups of people perceive and interact with their world. Think about that for a moment. How much of your own culture, your values, maybe even your unspoken social hierarchies might be hidden right there, woven into the very structure of the sentences you use every single day without even thinking about.
Something to definitely mull over.
That's certainly something for you to explore on your own. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the structures of language. We really hope you feel thoroughly well informed.